Good morning to you both. Julian, we'll start with you. The Coalition has implied that the Prime Minister is selling out our national security for seats in Western Sydney by granting the almost 3,000 visas to people fleeing Gaza. Is this about votes?
Oh, I don't think they've implied it. They've kind of said it. But look, I'll just make 2 points. I'll address the question, but 2 points. Having watched this nasty, divisive, fear-based scare campaign for the last 8 days or so since they started it. The first point is they want to talk about costs, they want to talk about economic impacts of a few vulnerable people fleeing a war zone, but they don't want to talk about cost of living. That's actually what this is about. It's a distraction because they don't want to talk about tax cuts, they don't want to talk about the energy rebates, they don't want to talk about cheaper medicines. We've had not one question about the things that Australians are talking about. When I go door knocking, when I stand around on the weekend, I think every MP in this place knows that tackling the cost of living, continuing the work to get inflation down is what Australians want us to be focused on. This is a distraction. It's a nasty, divisive scare campaign. The second point I'd make, just look at the optics. It says everything about Peter Dutton, that at the moment our Australian athletes return from their greatest Olympics ever with 18 gold medals. He was on the television. He couldn't even bring himself to have 2 or 3 hours to let the country celebrate and be together. The green and the gold was on the TV behind him, and he launched this negative, nasty, dog-whistling scare campaign instead of welcoming our athletes home. I just really want to make those 2 points about the context. Let that sink in so people can see this for what it is.
Well, Peter Dutton was asked directly by First Edition host Pete Stefanovic on that Wednesday. But Keith, what's your response to that the Coalition is just doing this as a distraction because they don't want to talk about the cost of living?
Well, Julian's a very effective campaigner for his party, and it's a simple playbook that they use all the time, again and again. Don't address the substantive issue that we've asked the question about, attack the person. Attack the person. And we're better than that as a country. And as a party of government, the Labor should be better than that. They constantly accuse the Greens of doing that. But when it suits their own interests, they engage in exactly the same sort of behaviour. And I want to draw a comparison. Right now, the government is making decisions about the diversity of students, the backgrounds of where they come from for higher education. Now, you don't see the Coalition accusing them of being divisive and xenophobic because we'll engage in the substance of the issue. Because that's what we do. That's what a mature, serious party of government should do. We have asked serious questions to the Prime Minister. Now, if Julian wants more questions about cost of living, well, perhaps he could hint to the Prime Minister to answer the questions that we've put to them. He keeps coming into the Parliament and not only gaslighting the Parliament, but gaslighting the nation. We have approved 10 times the number of visas than our peer democracies. Australians are entitled to know that if that process is being done in their interest and if it's thorough. And there are serious questions that have not been answered.
Well, Julian, The Australian is reporting this morning that after the government announced that Palestinians could apply for visitor visas, Home Affairs Department officials were forced to scramble in managing an influx of visa holders from a war zone, and in some cases the department was forced to cancel visas and stop people boarding planes to Australia over concerns about details provided and the need for more personal information. That doesn't sound like what the Prime Minister has been saying, that the normal processes were followed.
Well, I'll just make 3 points. Firstly, just to observe that Keith, I think, proved my core point. He wants to keep on this issue at the expense of the cost of living. So, feel free, come into the Parliament today and ask some questions about cost of living. Ask about the tax cuts, ask about the energy rebates.
OK.
I'm not holding my breath.
All right, Keith, your response to
that? Addressing your question.
Oh, well, and now apparently it's a crime to actually answer the question you put to me. Julian would prefer that I just answer some random answer like the Prime Minister does in question time. Australians used to be good at asking questions and answering them, but we're not seeing that in the Parliament at the moment, and Australians are suffering because of it.
OK. Gentlemen.
The Prime Minister has answered the questions that is put to him and will continue to do so today.
Gentlemen, we're out of time. Thank you so much for your time, though. Really appreciate it.